a lot of women who have come through my practice around the ages of 27 to 32, right? So this 5 to 6 year span in your life where you feel like everything is falling apart, right? And so the way that I like to think about it is we come into this world with everything around us telling us how we should think and how we should feel. So very much this external authority, school, government, family, traditional values. And we listen, we absorb, we follow that. And then there comes a point around 27, 28 where there are certain things that like certain signs that following this external authority no longer works for you. In fact, it makes you sick, right? It shows up as pain in your body, anxiety, depression, like you just know you can't go on anymore in that old way. So this is the time where whatever's in your foundation that isn't really working for who you are and what you really want out of your life starts to unravel. And what can be so terrifying is that you don't have the next thing yet crystallized. I think about that 28 to 32, that time is when you are mostly done with school and you know, at 25, your brain fully developed. So you've got your whole brain and you're trying to figure out what's that next really big adult step. And so then I like to take it to the archetypal realm, which is the heroine's journey. I feel like that corresponds with the Saturn returns because it's this time where you are initiated, meaning you break away from your tribe or your family, your foundation. You take the good things that they have given you, but you have to leave and go on a quest to actually find your higher self or your gifts. And it's through that quest you receive lessons and gifts, and they can be really challenging. But then at a certain point then in your life, you take those gifts and you return back to your tribe and you offer them. We have a lifetime to grow. And that Saturn returns is just one really vital breakdown to have the breakthrough. But whatever we retrieve from that, we get to retain that forever until the next cycle, the next round. But it does get easier and it gets richer because what you're doing is you're swapping out outer authority for inner authority, and that equals self-love. It's what you gather in that quest, right? It's the friends, the allies, the teachings. It's the falling down and hurting yourself and picking yourself back up, right? If you look at every Disney movie, it is literally the heroine's journey, right? It's like breaking away to go off on your own journey, but it's not always easy, right? But you make friends, and you make friends with yourself too along the way. And it gets to continue and unfold over your life. I think one of the first things is knowing that we're really not meant to do this alone. You know, this is not a process where you're in isolation and you try to figure it out without lots of support. And so that can look in all different ways, but it is about also finding other people who honor this as an initiation process. Maybe folks that have been further along in their own journey. It's really about just reaching out. I find and have found that therapy is so healing. Like working with someone where you can be fully vulnerable, and that's their role, right? Is to actually really, that time is so sacred. That session is just really for you. I think sometimes it can feel a little complicated with family or friends because it's a two-way relationship. But there's something about being in a private space where you can just let go, and that's what it's designed for. As hard as it might be, like this is where we also have an opportunity to fall back into our family system, even if they may not totally get it, that they actually get to learn as parents or as siblings. My parents and I have been on this journey together for 41 years now, right? I'm 41, and they have evolved and grown so much. They very much wanted me to have a traditional pathway that would give me status and money, but then they saw how much I was suffering inside of that. And so they also learned and reworked their way of being with me. But that it was a really long, it's an ongoing process. And that inside of that, there is pure love, right? Sometimes it can be hard as children to see and to feel that pure love that's there because there's so many conditions and so many ways of expressing it that we can't actually feel, but for me, it's gotten to this point in my life where there's just so much pure love that's coming in now. I can both receive it and I can give it back to my parents.
Voice that you talk about that I'm not sure everyone's able to hear that. And I call it intuition. I don't know what you think of it. But maybe I'm curious if you think there's ways that people can tap into that a little bit better.
I know for me, when I'm actually out in nature, that is when I can actually tune in and hear that voice. And I think it's actually really okay and normal to hear it as your own voice, but you can tell by the quality of it. It's how it makes you feel, and it will continue to show up. It's something that will just keep coming and you can't ignore it. I actually think it's scarier to not listen, because then you are in a bit of a trap. You're doing something, you're going to a job, or you're staying in a relationship that drains you, right? And makes you have to compromise your true values and your true self. I think that is actually scarier.
Yeah.
And I think what we're really talking about here is surrendering. It's like surrendering some control and trusting, right? Which is scary, yet when you follow your heart, you're met with something larger, and then that becomes part of your foundation. Then when you ride through one of these cycles and you come out on the other end, then you have embodied knowledge that it's about trusting your process and letting go and falling in. And of course, doing some work in there. But you now know that you can both trust your intuition and larger forces that match that intuition.